Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Little Talks with PopCultX. I'm your co-host, Daniel. And along with Gabriel, we are joined today by a fabulous comedian, veteran, and he's just going to be a rising star. I can feel it. His name is Jose Sarduy. Welcome to the show, Jose.
Hey, guys. Fabulous comedian. I like it.
Yes, fabulous comedian.
I normally just dress... I dress, nice, but fabulous. Like, well, I didn't know.
Hey,
I didn't know.
You rocked that blue shirt in the dry bar video clip that I saw. So
yeah, I didn't know I had raised my game up to fabulous. So
you have to let all your buddies in the Air Force know you're fabulous now.
That's right. That's right. Using that word all the time now.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. I've been really looking forward to having you on the show. And to be able to talk to you, comedian, entertainer, actor, all of the above. So I can't wait to get talking to you.
Thank you very much. I'm happy to be here. I watched some of your podcasts. I do my homework for everything I'm on. So I watched some of the YouTube. I didn't actually listen to just the Pure podcast, but I did watch maybe 2 or 3 of your YouTube videos to see what the flavor of the show was before I said yes, and I liked it. So
cool.
Here I am.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, just a couple dorky guys talking about pop culture. And
well, I mean, some of your pop culture knowledge is above my head. I think you were talking about it's like a type of movie and like genre of. I think you had a comic book writer on.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Who did some movies and some of the stuff that you were talking about. I was like.
Me too. Don't worry.
Somebody's gotta go to art school.
Too much time in comic book stores. Sorry, Dan.
Oh yeah, no problem. For our listeners, Jose, or viewers, give us a brief bio of who you are. Maybe they haven't had the honor or privilege to hear any of your stand-up or hear about you, and this is their first time. So give us your Cliff Note bio of who Jose Sarduy is.
All right. I was born in Cuba to a political prisoner father and my mom, who essentially paid the price of being married to a political prisoner. We tried to get out of Cuba, and they said, "You can't leave. We're kicking you out." So we got deported from Cuba. It's such a bitter boyfriend tactic. Thanks, Cuba. Came to the U.S. when I was 3 years old and grew up in a bunch of places, predominantly U.S., but I lived in Rochester, New York, and Puerto Rico, and Miami, Florida. But other than that, that's all where I lived. Grew up there. Always wanted to be an astronaut. So looked into what being an astronaut took, and so took really good grades. So I became a good student. I was a good student before that, but I really focused. And actually, my discipline grades, those are the ones that went up because I was like, I got to join the military. I got to follow orders. I'll have to learn to do that. And then I did actually get picked to go to the Air Force Academy. I got selected by a congressman and both of my senators. The congressman took it, though, because he was Cuban. So he's like, this one's mine. So I went to the United States Air Force Academy. I got a degree in aeronautical engineering, just barely. That's what I discovered at the Air Force Academy. I had bad time management skills, and I was bright. I wasn't smart. I met smart people, and I was like, "Yeah, I'm not going to use that term on myself anymore." Graduated there. I was already a pilot. I became a glider pilot at the Air Force Academy, and so on track to being an astronaut. I was an instructor, and that's actually kind of where I picked up one love that I didn't know about, which was teaching. So became a flight teacher. Went to pilot training, became an Air Force aviator, didn't get fighters. And so the track direct to, being a shuttle commander was thwarted. But I kept trying, and I flew cargo planes for some years. And then I went back to training command and have been teaching ever since there. And somewhere along the way, when I'd kind of lost hope to become an astronaut, I mean, I always had hope. I had a good life, and my family loved me. So, career hope, right?
Okay.
I figured out I could tell jokes like I'd always loved stand up, but I was a very inside joke teller. So it's like one of those people that's really funny at parties.
Mm-hmm.
That wasn't me. I was not funny at parties. I was funny at like sitting at a dinner with people that knew me and were at an event that we all went to. Then I was funny.
Gotcha.
But to strangers or at a, no. I told other people's jokes well with timing because I watched so much stand up, but I was really unfunny. So not the person that would say, oh, I should become a comedian. So it never even dawned on me. And then I figured it out. And then I made some people laugh. And I was like, what was that? And I looked into what becoming a stand-up was. And it was really hard. And I love hard things. I mean, I'm an immigrant that got deported from his home country. Come on now. Bring it. Bring on the hard stuff. So started looking into what it took, and everything I found out about it was more difficult than the last thing. And I was like, oh yeah, I'm in, right? So made a plan, did some research on what it took to write. I wrote my jokes. I tried it. I was incredibly unfunny, but I got one chuckle from 3 hardened New York comedians. And that started me on this path. And then it was just supposed to be a side job while I still tried to become an astronaut through all the secondary ways of doing it. And then even then, if I didn't make astronaut, at least I wanted to try and still make fighter pilot in some way. Mm-hmm. And then I had a big year in 2007, 2008, and I had to make a choice to either apply for the spy plane, the U-2, because that was the next path I was going to take.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so almost in orbit, right? And you wear a spacesuit, so that I was like, that's good enough. Right?
That's good enough, close enough.
As soon as I found out there was a spacesuit, they were like, "Oh, you know what you can do? You can like inflate the suit and bring your arms in, and scratch your nuts." And I was like, people already ruined something so cool. And so I made the choice because I got a bunch of opportunities. CBS had me audition for the lead in a sitcom, and so I made the choice to go do comedy full time. I got a job with a reserve unit doing the teaching job as a flight instructor for the Air Force part time. Still do that. So I got to do 2 things I love. I have 2 careers that I love, and I'm very grateful that I had all the opportunities and all the life experiences to do it, and get to where I am right now. And it's pretty great. Always trying to climb to the next level, right? Always making those high but achievable goals. But I've already achieved like what I set out to do. I wanted to, okay, I'm not gonna be an astronaut, I'll be a pilot. And I'm gonna be a comedian that tours and does jokes. And I already achieved that stuff. So now it's like, that's cool. I got to pick a bigger goal, right? So eventually, I mean, if things go well, it will be world domination. But I mean, we're a lot of steps from that.
Nice. So when you went from training to be an astronaut, obviously, I'm sure your parents were extremely proud of you, like son of immigrant, coming to this country and you really having really high aspirations. And then, obviously you must have told your parents, like, I want to be a comedian now. How did that go over with them?
It's odd because my family doesn't attach pride in me to actually what I do. It's really more just like, as long as I'm trying, right? As long as I'm trying, like my mom, I remember very clearly we used to have to, I don't know, you guys are my age. We had the phone on the wall, remember? You had to take the phone off the wall. So we got phone calls on Sundays. And so I called my mom and I'd gotten my first F. Like I'd never gotten an F. And it wasn't even a good F, like 69.9%. No, it was, I got a 32% on a test. I basically got the grade for my writing my name correctly. Like the worst score on anything I'd ever done. It was in chemistry. As we say in the military, when we're in mixed company, I thought the fit was going to hit the shan. Right. And I'm sitting next to my mother, and the other person in the phone next to it wasn't a booth. They just had a phone. We could hear each other's conversation.
So it wasn't a prison.
Right. Exactly. No, prison gets privacy, man. Get privacy. So I told my mom, and I don't know what to expect. And What had just happened next to me was the kid had told his dad that he got like a C on a test. And I could hear his dad yelling, "You do not come home to us a failure." Like I could hear it. Like he had to pull it away from his ear. So I was like, I think we're having the same moment, you and me, Bobby. So I called my mom and I said, I got an F on a chemistry test. And my mom was like, come home, just come home. It's okay. I was like, too supportive. Too supportive, mom. Yeah. So it's like that. When they found out, like, oh yes, chased your dream,
That's cool.
I think the one thing she doesn't like is she thinks I'm making fun of her, which is it's the opposite, right? Like, in American culture, when you roast someone, the very funniest roasts, the ones that aren't like put downs, but like the really classic roast jokes are for the people that you really love, right? People that you admire and you make fun of. And a lot of the stuff, I think it's funny that my mom gets upset about the jokes about her because she did them. Like, she's not like one of those people, right? So there's people that are funny, but don't know they're funny. And so when you say what they say, you're actually mocking them. My mother did those things and said those things to be funny. She's a very educated woman. I know that she knows how to say Wi-Fi. Right. But she calls me and she's like, when you come to the house, you can use high five all over the house. Like, she knows that's wrong. She did that to make me laugh. Right. And so I'm using her jokes in a lot of the stories. And people, like, the reaction that people have to my mother really lets her know that, oh, he's not mocking me. He's honoring me, because people want to meet me and they want to thank me for creating this kid or whatever. So
yeah, that's awesome.
My family's very proud. My dad was like confused, like, you're leaving the Air Force? I'm like, no, I'm going to be in the reserves. And you could see that went right over his head. He's like, the reserves? I don't know that word. Right? So it was either direct, like unflinching support or confusion. That's what it caused.
Do you notice a shift now that you're doing more comedy and you're getting more well known for your comedy, of friends or family members being like, whoa, watch what you say around Jose or else it's going to end up on stage? Do you notice anything like that happening?
No, my family's, I think we have a bit of a showman gene, because I think they all try to get on the show.
Okay.
My pilot training students definitely like, be careful, don't say anything dumb. You will end up in Sarduy's show. You'll be watching Comedy Central. You'll be like, oh, that's me. my pilot training students definitely have that concern.
Right on. For your comedy though, who was like your inspiration that you looked when you said you were studying to how to be a stand-up comedian? Is there any like particular comedians that you focused on that you said, hey, I want to be like that guy, or that guy makes me laugh so much, I want to go down that same path? No,
what I was studying was, I'm an engineer. I got an engineer brain. Even if I was a mediocre engineer, it's still an engineer, right? And so it was just looking at the process. So how do you construct a joke? How do you tell a joke, right? Because I would just sit and enjoy it and retell it, but I never analyzed what is the setup, what is the punchline, how do you construct one? If you have an idea for a joke, how do you build one, right? And so that's what I looked, and I just looked at everybody that I already loved. So all the comedians that I admired and that made me laugh, I went back and looked at it. And even the ones that don't make me laugh, but I know are highly skilled and are very funny. Like I can separate someone that doesn't make me laugh. I don't immediately say, well, they're not funny, right? They're not funny to me, but I am a connoisseur of the art. So even if I would go to a comedy club and I wasn't laughing, I was admiring their ability and kind of like watching the audience laugh and enjoying being the part of it. Although it's hard to find a comedian that doesn't make me laugh. But a famous example would be Ellen DeGeneres, right? Ellen's very talented. She was a very talented stand-up, great writer, great performer. People loved her. She killed. Didn't ever really get me to laugh very hard, but I know she's funny, and so she was one of the people that I looked at for analysis. But the big ones for me were Carlin, Pryor, and it's unfortunate now, but Cosby. I mean, he's a monster, but dude could write a joke, right? So I looked at their stylings, but everybody that I liked, I learned from, right? So I learned from Seinfeld, right? If you watch a Seinfeld set, you could probably, if you watch him for an hour and a half, you could count on one hand the ums, right? It's just very precise. Fell in love with Brian Regan. Was my favorite comedian of all time. I actually got to meet him and whatnot. And for him, it's very, it's funny. His comedy is very funny, but also his ability to write in something that's not his regular voice, right? He curses in person and he talks about adult subjects, but on stage he's a family act, and that was a choice he made, and that's very like, wow, how do you do that?
Right.
But tons of people, like I watched Rogan, I like Joe Rogan stuff. Eddie Murphy, obviously, who was kind of a if you watch Richard Pryor, you kind of see Eddie Murphy's an evolution of him.
Yeah.
But then Pryor was an evolution of Cosby. You see where the roots are to how some comedians get good. But tons of people, and then there were a lot of comedians that I watched that were maybe not stand-up, like Carol Burnett is one of my heroes, right? Lucille Ball.
Nice.
And you watch how they made people laugh. And so I kind of took everything from everybody. And every comedian I would watch. I mean, I did this back when CDs were a thing. You remember CDs? I would go to Best Buy. I went to a store, a brick and mortar store. This is going to be an old timey message they find in a digital bottle. I would go to Best Buy and I would go to the comedy CD section and just buy one I didn't know. So I would just buy 4 or 5. I've never heard this person. I've never even heard of this person. And then I would listen to them. And sometimes I became a fan, and sometimes I was like, oh, well, I don't want to be that, So that process of learning and picking up, I still do today. Working with other comedians, I watch their styles. I learn from them. I learn maybe a new innovative way to do things. And then I always kind of push myself to still go do open mics when, obviously, before there was a killer virus. I would go to open mics and I would watch the young comedians, the young up and comers, and see if they had figured out something new, right? And I'm always trying to figure out something new. So to answer your question in the longest way possible, I learned from everybody that I watch, and those were my big references growing up were Carlin, Pryor, and Cosby.
Nice. So I'm curious, when you are building your brand or your persona, as it were, did you determine like, okay, I'm going to be on closer to the family, like general audience? Am I going to go really blue, or do you just like not spur of the moment, but does it depend on the venue and you feel comfortable in both, or do you have a natural inclination to kind of lean towards one or the other?
So there's a process to building, I think, your stand-up. So it's like a 3-step process. So first you got to get your legs, which is you go up on stage and you either you fail or you succeed, but you got to learn to fail. Mm-hmm. So people are not laughing and you keep going, right? You don't let it break you.
Yeah.
So getting your legs, right? So you don't lose your knees don't knock or you don't collapse on stage. It's metaphorical. Some people actually do collapse, but yeah, you learn to fail, right? So that's getting your legs. Then you get your voice. So it's a place that's either a character or a persona, right? So the early stand-up by, say, Adam Sandler was a character, right? He played it. I don't think that's him. I've met him in person, and it seemed like two different people. But his early stage persona was a person right? And that's where from that voice, it was easier to create jokes, to be funny.
Yeah.
And so I found my legs early because I won some scholarships. So I'd already been through like the stage fright, and I'd done some drama and some TV. So I was already like getting over the nervousness of being in front of people. That was not the problem. But getting the voice was the hard part, right? Because how do you write a joke? How do you create a joke? What do you talk about? And so I spitballed, man. I threw everything at the wall to try and find my voice and find what was funny. And then your voice and being funny, that's the next step. And then the third step is learning how to write. So actually putting all those together and writing jokes from your voice. And obviously, already willing to fail. And so you don't do them in chronological order, that you're doing all three at the same time. Mm-hmm. But the thing that you conquer first is usually your legs. The thing you conquer second is your voice. And then the thing you conquer third is usually learning to write effectively and efficiently. So that was the process for me when I first started. Once I got to a place where talking about what I talked about at the age of 27, right? Mm-hmm. What does a 27-year-old talk about? Sex, dating, right? And my family and Air Force were fairly family friendly. So the sex stuff was the only stuff that I had to leave out if I did clean shows. Because I started doing clean shows right away because military was like, we want you for Christmas parties. I was like, okay, well, I have 3 minutes of comedy. And so it all kind of happened. What I've always liked about the way my development in comedy went is it all kind of happened simultaneously. I didn't get one thing, I wasn't like this clean comedian like prior. And then one day I just said, F it. I'm telling jokes the way I want to tell it. I've been doing it in every way from the beginning, and being able to do diverse audiences and diverse crowds, from the crazy, not Blues Brothers, but Chicken Wire, but pretty crazy bar shows where you got to metaphorically grab the audience by the collar and go, pay attention to these jokes, right? and all the way to the pristine theater filled with people that are there that really want to laugh and paid big money to see a good show. And so I learned all of those along the way. And so now I can tailor the act. Also, I have a lot of material. So I have about 3 hours of this stuff. And so I can tailor the material. And I've written about 100 minutes of it clean. So, I mean, I don't always do it clean. Some of the jokes I like better in their dirty form or blue form.
Yeah.
But sometimes I write a clean version and I go, I like this version better, right? So it depends, right? And so I can take the act and kind of move it to whoever I'm telling it to, right? If I'm doing, I do children's shows on Carnival Cruise Line.
Oh, nice.
So I do a lot of my jokes that I'm just moving around a lot and right, a lot of the goofier stuff. I do that for children. I do a clean adult show, so that's adults, no profanity and no dirty stuff, right? Or no sexual stuff. All of it being innuendo, so no graphic content. Mm-hmm. So I can tailor it that way, and then I can do a completely balls out. I mean, metaphorically balls out show. I've not done the literal balls out show. Well, I've had friends that have done it. Nudist colonies and stuff. So I take the act to wherever it needs to go for the audience that requests it. And we've created a very simple rating system. My management team and stuff knows about it. And so when they sell it to people, they do it that way. Cool. I used to sell cleanliness like for more money.
Yeah.
Like, okay, this is my show, 1 hour. And this is when I was first headlining, and I had maybe 100, maybe not 100. I had about 70 minutes. And so I was like, okay, 60 minutes, dirty, rated R show. That will be $500. And then I was like, PG-13, 40 minutes, and that will be $700. And then I was like, PG show, 25 minutes, $1,000. That's how I used to sell myself before I got management. And management was like, that's not
how you do it.
It's not the way you're such a smart guy, Jose. That's dumb. That's really dumb.
When you were mentioning, the sort of editing yourself or not necessarily editing, but just choosing different wording for the type of show, it made me think about what some older comedians have recently said about younger audiences not being able to like take a joke or really being overly sensitive and being the death of comedy. And I disagree. I think that funny is funny, and like young people are still like, I think there's a lot of hilarious comedians that are coming out that are really young, that are like cutting edge and hilarious. What has your experience been? And do you feel that younger generations in the crowd like are not getting your sense of humor, or like they're a little too woke, or do you feel that it's a little over dramatic on Jerry's part?
I think it's just old people.
Yeah.
The comedians that were hip once are now old. And if you look back through history, it's always like this generation coming up. Every generation has said that. Every group of old people like, this generation sucks. Like, just how do you not see you're doing that old trope? It's just so crazy. I have done shows for like religious organizations. Like, they cannot take a joke on some subjects, okay? Like, this is not a new thing, okay? Lenny Bruce used to get arrested for talking about his penis.
Yeah.
Like there used to be real like power, right? They use the cops to silence people. Now it's just like, I don't like it that you punch down on a group that's weaker than you. I don't think that's funny, and I think it's harmful. And if they're here, they're hurt by it, right? I think the generation today is just much more conscientious of other people, and maybe they go overboard sometimes.
Yeah.
But honestly, I would rather that than, voices being silenced using the cops. I really like where, the cancel culture idea. People are like, what do you think of cancel culture? I'm like, it's great. It's really great. People are getting canceled that deserve it.
Yeah.
You said something awful. They never. You see those people. They never go, well, maybe what I said was awful. They never think of it that way.
Yeah.
They immediately get defensive and say, oh, they're too woke and the SJWs, and it's like, I'm not going to break down what you said and how dumb it is, and why you deserve it. But, I've said a couple examples on podcasts before, and it's just like, it's not real. It's very much, very rarely is someone like unfairly, not even taken down, just called out.
Yeah.
And I think my favorite part is that the people that used to cancel people, like really cancel them, using the government and using the arm of the state to silence voices they didn't like. Those are the people being silenced now. Those are the opinions, right, that are being silenced. And they're being silenced by something that they praise, like market capitalism. So people say stuff that's awful, and then businesses go, you're bad for business. I love it. I love it. Oh, I love when that happens.
Same awesome. Here. So I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah. Young people today, man, they're just coming up today as a young person. It's just the things that were available to previous generations. They don't have that. You know how much a college education puts you into debt nowadays?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you know how hard it is to get a job that you can stay in for 20 years and start a family and retire from? It doesn't exist anymore. All these things that these people like don't seem to remember they had as advantages are not there anymore. And they're like, oh, this generation's lazy. Yeah, you know what they called your generation? Lazy. we got to grow out of that as human beings. We seriously got to be like, this generation is pretty good. They got some new challenges, things I never went through, you know.
I always try to give them as much compliment as I can. I don't have kids, so I know my nieces and nephews are going to have to take care of me at one point. So yeah. I give them props as much as I can. They're awesome. They accomplished more than any other generation before them.
I always try to reframe it because I work in the Air Force. It's a very conservative old man's club where I work. And so they'll start it like kids today. They can't have a conversation with someone in person. I was like, yeah, but they're pretty amazing. They can have like 7 conversations at the same time online and keep threads. I mean, their ability to multitask is ridiculous. They should probably also work on one-to-one, face-to-face conversations. But then again, that's everybody.
Yeah.
Do you remember all the awkward people we grew up with? What did the older generation say? This generation they don't even look you in the eye when they talk to you. Like, that's what they said about you, old man.
We're fighting becoming those old men. We're really, really fighting it.
Yeah. We're going to be those old men that maybe like, good job, young people.
Yeah.
Keep it up.
That's the goal, is to be the cool old man, the cool hip old man.
Supportive, the supportive old man. I'm not going to get a ponytail, but otherwise I'm going to be the supportive old man.
I was just thinking about the ponytail right now. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, don't do it, Danny.
It's coming.
Yeah, why not? It's coming. How much would you say you really lean into your Cuban roots for your comedy, or just for any of your creative endeavors? Is it
as much as it fits me? I don't know. I think I'm a little bit detached. Okay. I left home at 18, and I kind of became a nomad. Okay. And so I love my family, and we're very close, but I don't know if I'm taking the right road there. If I need to be more connected with family and, learn all their birthdays and call all the young cousins on, I don't, that was never me growing up. Like my mom did that. And then she would be like, say happy birthday to your tia. Like, happy birthday, tia. But I never was that connected to the big family. And I don't know. I'm thinking of maybe adjusting that as I get older, because in person we're all very close. We're very connected. Right. But when we're apart, I do my thing, they do their thing, and I don't know. I'm currently reassessing that if I want to be like fingers in, all in for family as I get older, or if I'm just going to keep this kind of nomad life. So I don't know. I'm actually in the process of analyzing myself and seeing what's the most psychologically healthy way to move forward with that. So, because here's the reason why a nomad life was good for me is you don't miss people all the time. Like you miss them when you think about them, when they come up in your mind, when you talk to them from a distance, but when I was attached to my family really closely, when I wasn't near them, I missed them. Like it hurt. And it kind of weighs on you, right? The longer you are away from them, it wears on you psychologically. So I kind of created this compartmentalization of emotion and feeling, so that when I see a text from my mom, like, oh, my mom, and I'm very excited, but and the thing about my mom is she's in a lot of my jokes. So I think about her all the time. But when I'm not doing jokes, I'm not constantly worried about what's my mom doing right now. Is she okay at the house by herself? And so that worked for me for a lot of years. So I don't know where I'm going to go. I may shift as my parents get older and be much more that worrywart, and finally get all the gray hairs to come in. So we'll see.
I'm glad to hear that I'm not the only Latino son that doesn't spend every Sunday at their mom's house for dinner. And I thought I was just a bastard for not seeing my mom. And now I feel like, okay, I'm not that bad.
I will tell you the one time my mom hung up on me, like old school. I was at the Air Force Academy, and it was a call on Sunday. And my mom was trying to put it all together. Like, what was this career? What was it going to, what was it going to be like? It's like, so she was like in Spanish. She's like, so tell me how this is going to go. And I said, well, I'll be here for 4 years. I'll graduate. I'll hopefully go to pilot training. So from here, I'll go to one of the bases for pilot training. I'll then get a job as a pilot. So I will hopefully go some base. They may be all over the world. I'll spend a few years there, and then I'll move base to base to base, getting jobs, raising rank. Eventually, I'll go to NASA, and NASA's in Houston, so I'll probably go down to Texas and live there, or Cape Canaveral. But you can kind of live anywhere as an astronaut. You just got to, go to those places, and still be in the Air Force part-time. But that's, basically how I'm planning for it to go. And my mom was really quiet for a second. She's like, and in Spanish, she's like, what about us? Meaning the family. And I go,
right.
I'll visit you guys on like holidays and stuff. And she hung up. She hung up on me. Because I think she had this vision of like, after college, I was going to come back to Miami and buy a house, a drive away from the house so that they could see me regularly, and then get a job and start a family and all that. And I threw a wrench in that picture, and she's like, I don't think so. So yes, it's we're oddities.
Yeah. That was one of my favorite, most awkward times, is like going out with like, my adult friends, like 28, 30, and then them seeing me call, and they're like, oh, what are you doing? I'm like, oh, I'm calling my dad to let him know I'm okay. They're like, what? I'm like, yeah, I'm almost 30 and I have to call my dad to let him know I'm okay. They don't get it. White Americans don't understand the connection and the guilt and power that Latino parents have over their children. That,
Yeah. I mean, I fought it for a long time, man. I fought it till my mid-20s. And then I just kind of said, okay. I was like, Mom, can you drive me to the bar? They would get me to Miami Beach. I would be in the back seat. I'd kiss my mom and my dad. Thank you. See you later. And then I would go drink.
Oh, God.
I would text her. I'm like, I'm getting a taxi. Like 4 a.m. I'm getting a taxi. I'll be home in a little bit. She wouldn't answer, but she would get up the next day and be like, okay, I will this how you, I'll make you breakfast. Yeah. I just kind of like embraced it. Like, okay, they that's part of how they show love.
Yeah,
so
absolutely. Yeah. But it's when you don't have that, when you're like, wait a minute, they didn't call me back. It's been 3 days. And then then it like the flip goes and you're like, oh my God, I've been ignoring my dad, and now he fell and he can't reach the phone. And
that's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
The guilt. Speaking of your Latino heritage and your culture and things like that, as a comedian or someone that's in the spotlight now, do you feel pressure to represent that identity in a positive light? Or is it just like, okay, my goal is to be funny. It's not to, represent a whole culture.
I never took it as my mantle to represent my culture. I mean, I did. And I remember at the Air Force Academy, I was probably the first Cuban most of them met there. And I was like, this is not. Don't think you know Cubans now. Okay? I grew up wanting to be Bruce Wayne, not Ricky Ricardo. Okay. It's very different. So I didn't ever try to represent my culture. I was very much, a chameleon, because I grew up when I was little, we moved a lot. And I think before I was 10, maybe? No, before I was 18, I think we moved like 13 times. Oh. So I had to go to new schools and meet new kids. And so I was kind of annoying in that way. I was like, hi, how you guys doing? What are you guys playing? Hopscotch? Hopscotch's a good game. You guys look like you're pretty good at hopscotch. Can I play hopscotch? Like, they were like, slow down, weirdo. You are too friendly for a new person. And so I was able to integrate with most groups, which I kind of was in doubt in junior high because I was kind of a nerd. And in drama and the Young Astronauts Club and the math team, right? Just like stuff like, ooh, those panties are coming off, girl, right? But then I went out for the wrestling team as the first sport I played, and I was able to integrate into that group as well. And I kind of do it the same way now that I did it then. I just quietly join the group. I listen. I get the feel for the room. What's everybody saying? And then I join in. People are like, you're so quiet. I'm like, I'm studying you bitches. And then I will know exactly how to make you laugh. And I'm coming in hard, you know.
For sure. Oh, man. So you're Gen X like us. So, and we are a pop culture podcast. Is there any sort of pop culture movies or comic books, video games, anything like that you just like dive into that you really enjoy doing that you can just lose all track of time in?
It's pretty interesting, man. I was very much a follower of pop culture, I think, until comedy really took off. Okay. So I started touring pretty aggressively in like 2010 and 11. I was touring before that, but I wasn't it wasn't full time. I wasn't living in my car for 3 weeks at a time. And I just kind of dropped I kind of paid attention to it, almost like I didn't want to lose my geek card. So I watched the movies that came out. But it's really interesting. Like I stopped really caring intently about stuff. Except for a couple franchises, right? Like Star Wars, Star Trek, superheroes, maybe anything Ghostbusters, my favorite movie ever. So I was a Ghostbusters nut. And then like space stuff, right? Like that kind of thing. Like I love The Expanse. Oh, got to plug in my thing. Don't want this to die. Saved it. I don't even know if he lost me there for that. So I stopped. It was an interesting shift, right? Because it was also with sports. Like when I reached an age when I was older than all the players, I did not give a shit about that sport anymore. I just didn't. I didn't follow it. I used to know like who was coming up from college and who was in the draft. None of that mattered to me anymore. It was the same thing with pop culture. Like, I watch it, you know, from a distance, but it's like sports. If I see it on TV, I go, oh, athleticism. Like it's that kind of it's a novelty at this point. Okay. But anything prior to that point, I still know all that stuff about, right? So I know Star Wars stuff pretty well and Star Trek stuff pretty well. You know, and obviously Ghostbusters, but, I don't know much. The superhero genre, I'm very much the old school superheroes. And anytime they try to make a new one, I'm always like, why is Iron Man the main hero? He's an asshole. Why is that?
Yes.
Why is that guy crying after he said I'm Iron Man and he died? Why is that grown man crying? He's the asshole character. Like he's the asshole kind of like sub-hero. He's not really a hero. Yeah. It's like if Captain America had died, I get it. That guy's a beautiful man and inside too. I'm just not as attached to it as I used to be. I'm more like, you know, I'm outside analyzing of that, an outsider analyzing things, almost like a person making a nature documentary about, right? About Justice League. I'm like, I don't think he understands the character. I don't think Snyder understands the character of Superman because Snyder, he doesn't have a good moral compass because he's a follower of Ayn Rand. Like that's the kind of way that I analyze pop culture now. It's very much like I got abducted by aliens and they dropped me back and I'm just learning humanity again. Oh, is this? Oh, I see.
Yeah, I have lots of moments like that going on Twitter and, you know, seeing people run at the mouth and you're like, where am I? Is this real life?
Right.
Is Nicki Minaj really talking about her cousin's friend's giant balls from getting the vaccine? And is that really being talked about on MSNBC and Fox News now? Like, this is news.
Well, it's because of what makes you a newsworthy person. And it's all about money.
Yeah.
Did you make money? That's how we stratify everything. And so there are scientists who are experts in their field who don't make a lot of money, and people could not give two shits what they say on a subject. But Nicki Minaj has made lots of money selling music records. Suddenly what she says, it's like, you have to address it because she reaches so many people, and some people don't get news from the news. Yeah. So you want to address it. You have to address it because of how we stratify our world. It's who made the most money. It's not always the best system. Just FYI.
I agree. Speaking of social media again, do you take advantage of like TikTok and Instagram and Twitter, or are you like, no, you're more like the club, you know, traditional comedy venues? Or, you know, do you think that that's just like not the tool for you, or are you investigating those kind of things?
I do what needs to be done. So set a goal. The goal is to sell out theaters and go on tour and release a new album every 1 to 2 years.
Nice.
That's the end game goal. To do that, you have to sell tickets. To sell tickets, you have to be in the public eye. So television, movies, social media, it's a reality. You got to do it. So I started doing it poorly in the MySpace era. And
MySpace, yes.
Holy crap. I was like, this is awful. I would not do this. If I wasn't in entertainment, I would quit this thing immediately. Like, I confused Sprint once. This is how, before entertainment, I went into the Sprint place and I said, I want a phone that cannot text, cannot receive text. I just want it to use it as a phone. The lady was like, this is 2002. The lady was like, I don't even know what you're saying. I need to get, I'm going to go get my manager. The thing we finally figured out was a phone that when I get text messages, it would give me an update and saying that you need to log into this website to check your messages. So I would have to pay internet to go check messages.
That's old school.
I said, okay, that's good enough because I will not check those messages. I will just not do it. People are like, I text you. I'm like, I don't get texts. And they're like, what? Like, I was like, I'm not going to be a part of that world. And then I went into entertainment. I was like, okay, here we go. Let's just learn how to do this. Right. And I never got good at it. I was never good. I'm still not good. I have a social media manager. So
nice.
She handles it and she's like, whoosh, make a video today. Okay, I got it. Make sure it's, it's vertical and put on your earbuds so it's got good audio and that one was in the wind. What's wrong with you?
We're talking about social media and your upcoming gigs and goals and you getting yourself out there. Where can our listeners find you?
So again, social media, someone else does it for me. So please, if you are a lady or a dude and you find me attractive, please realize there are other people reading those messages. Just FYI to the world.
I got to hear the story that makes this disclaimer come about.
I just get text messages from my social media manager. These bitches be thirsty. Like, it's just... I had to learn what that meant. And
you're like, well, did you offer them a soda?
That's right.
Glass of water.
So you can find me on josesarduy.com. That has links to all the things. JOSESARDUY.com. And this is I sell this shirt. I sold it at live shows. I used to have, I have I think there's no link to it on my website on my store, and people have found that link and have kept ordering stuff from my website. I don't even have a store, and I keep getting orders online. Like, how are they reaching me? So I'm just like, you know what? I'm gonna send you. I'm not gonna send the money back. I'm gonna send you the product because you found a way to matrix me into getting to my store, which is supposed to be turned on. Anyway, JoseSarduy.com does not have a store yet. It will have a store, and you can buy merchandise on there. On social media, it's at Jose Sarduy. My Facebook fan page is at Flying Funny. And I think there's a dash in between flying and funny. It's a web series that we're trying to sell as a TV show where I take up comedians in a little aerobatic airplane. We do loop-de-loops. It's comedians in cars getting coffee. We replace the cars with airplanes and the coffee with screaming.
And barf bags.
None of them have gotten to use a barf bag. I've had enough experience flying Air Force students. I know that if there's going to be puke, it's going to be 35 minutes in. So I keep the flights to less than 35 minutes. Yeah. Almost everybody that's ridden a roller coaster can make it 35 minutes. It's after 35 minutes that you are rolling the dice, baby. So you can catch me. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Instagram. I am not on TikTok because I heard it's a Chinese conspiracy. No, I'm kidding. I will join TikTok when it becomes like, okay, you have to, right? I didn't join Instagram until you basically had to. So it's kind of the same thing. But any social media network that comes out, I'll be on it. The Twitter is not very interesting, right? I'm not a Twitter excellent, but we do put a lot of time into the Instagram and Facebook stuff, so you can keep up with my life through those mediums. And then you can also, when you go on the website, you can join the mailing list, and periodically I send out like, hey, big show coming up or TV appearance or something like that. So you can join my mailing list that way as well. So that's how you can get a hold of me. I have a YouTube channel that I'm trying to develop and stream, say, new jokes that I'm working on to an audience, and then I game stream. So I play space games and stuff like that. So there's a couple places to catch me, and it's always just look up Jose Sarduy, JOSESARDUY.
Right on.
So
really cool.
I forgot to ask you, but are you based in Los Angeles as of right now?
I am. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So people can keep an eye out for any maybe upcoming gigs that you might have in Los Angeles.
Yes. Once when we get back to just regular shows, I work a bunch of the clubs out here. I was a regular a couple bookers ago, so maybe I'm still a regular. I don't know. I get on shows out here every so often. So
nice. Okay.
Can people go see or buy tickets for your comedy shows on the cruise lines, or is it just for the cruise line guests? Because I saw that you were going to be in San Diego, I think, in November.
I do have a San Diego show in November. Once the details come up for that, I'll have that ready. That's a on land show. I have a cruise ship that goes. I have a cruise ship that goes out of San Diego, as well. And that one you got to be on the cruise ship. So I try to differentiate all that stuff on the website. And you can look all that stuff up there as well. And hey, maybe you want to go to the Mexican Riviera. And
maybe
additionally, you get to see Jose. All right.
See one Jose, then see many Joses in the Mexican.
Yes. See if there's a difference. See if there's.
I'm guessing there will be, but
a little bit. I'm the European Jose. That is the Central American Jose. Well, same language, different heritage.
Yeah.
The more evil heritage is right here.
Glad you said it, not me.
Yes. Yes. I did a news show, and we were going to do a morning interview here in LA. And just before the show, we were just talking, and they're like, most people think Jose's are brown. Like, what do you say to people when they say, well, how is it that you're a light-skinned Jose? And I was like, well, if you look at history, there was a lot of rape. And the newscasters laugh like backstage, and I go, can I tell that one on the air? Like, no. They can catch that history lesson when they go to college. Like,
Right on.
No morning rape topics on Good Morning America.
No, don't point out the flaws of the European.
The colonialism, yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast, Jose. It was a pleasure having you. Hilarious. I recommend everyone that listens to this podcast, all of our listeners, to check you out on your website. Definitely, once we get more information about your San Diego show, I will be letting everyone know about that, putting it on our social media, and inviting people on down. You
mentioned at the beginning, Dry Bar. I didn't even the thing that's getting me on your show, right? So
3.5 million views so far is what I saw.
I think the full special, yeah. I think if you break up all the clips that they've released on different social media, it's up to about like 8 or 9 million.
Wow.
Views of all of them collectively. But yeah, that was a big thing. It was recorded in Utah, in Provo, Utah. Very, very Mormon. Like,
so you had to tailor that show.
I mean, they've got a version of Clean that you're just like, are there 3 pages of notes on this? Okay. But it's a comedy special you can watch with family. Anybody can watch it. Very proud of how it came out, and it's gotten a lot of views. So that's another way that you can watch me if you want the specific family-friendly version. When I start selling my CDs again, I do not have a clean CD. Please don't freak out. There are some very dirty jokes. I've gotten people like, "What is this? I saw you on Dry Bar." I'm like, all right.
I would love to see the video reaction though of like a nice Mormon family, like the father figure, all his like child brides and sister wives, and they're like, "Yes, we're going to finally hear that delightful young man on his CD."
And then make my CD in on like a family drive. We're going to Disneyland. Let's pop in Jose, and then they just got to pull over and cry.
That would be funny to see. Yeah.
One of the daughters was like, "I'm going to be a sex worker now."
We couldn't even see the whale's penis, but we could visualize it. Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Yes, I will say just one briefly about the Dry Bar. I hadn't laughed that much about a fart joke since I was probably in elementary school.
Oh, so thank you.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome. You're welcome. I did that joke at my 20th year college reunion, and everybody was like, "Who was it? Who was your roommate?" And I said his name on stage. And everybody said they were in their mind when they were hearing the joke, like, "Who is this person? This has got to be real." And then I said his name on stage, and the table where he was sitting erupted. Like, "We knew it was him. We knew his stinky ass." All right.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
If that's not a perfect moment to end the podcast, I don't know what is.
Exactly.
Close the Dry Bar special on a fart joke and the podcast. That's going to be my thing. I'm just going to finish every show I do with a good fart joke.
Nice.
Thank you again, Jose. We really appreciate your time. We really appreciate you coming on and talking to us about your process and everything that makes you tick. And we look forward to seeing so much more from you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm excited to see what you put on the green screen.
Oh, it's just going to be a guy farting.
Just 2 butt cheeks right here. The crack coming down. That's going to be the whole show. Just 2 butt cheeks. Hairy butt cheeks.
That is what it will be. Actually, it'll be a surprise.
Okay, good. It's good. I'm excited.
We'll see.